Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled City Council meeting of the Eastvale City Council, Wednesday, October 24th, 2018. It is just after 6:30. At this time, we're going to call this meeting to order. As a reminder, if you would like to speak before the council tonight, please complete a blue speaker request form, which you can find in the back over there next to the cake, and please eat that cake. It's good. Try it out. Strawberry. And once you fill out that speaker request form, give it to the clerk prior to the item of which you wish to speak on. Mr. Aguilar, if you could please call roll.
Councilmember Plott? Here. Councilmember Tessari? Here. Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby?
Here.
Mayor Lormore?
Here. Okay, tonight's invocation will be presented by Pastor Rob Norris of The Crossings. Didn't see him here. Mr. Costa, would you mind filling in? Thank you, sir.
You're good.
It's on? There we go. Good afternoon, good evening, City Council, staff, residents. Please bow your heads with me in honor of prayer for our Lord. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for today and just your opportunity to be a witness in this world and to do good that you've called us to. And for the work that's going forth, we ask that you would bless and guide each of these decisions that are made, that they would bring you glory. And we ask for this meeting to be upheld at the utmost for your work, Lord, in your hand. We ask for you to bless tonight and the going forth in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And this evening's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Todd Rigby.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We almost did that as good as Penelope did this morning, if you haven't seen that on video.
And also, before we continue, I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight and coming to our open house. That cake really is good if you haven't tried it yet. And we're sorry that it's a little bit warm. We did have an air conditioner installed today. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get it started quite yet. So that's why it's a little bit warmer in here right now. But appreciate you bearing with us and sticking it out. So it's great to see you all here. At this time, we're at the additions and revisions portion of the agenda. Have we received any requests for additions or revisions, Mr. Aguilar?
We've had no requests from staff.
Okay. Gentlemen on the dais, any requests for revisions? Polling items? Okay. Any members of the public? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to item number 4, and that is our presentations and announcements section. So Chair DaCosta, who led us in prayer a little bit earlier, he is the chair of our Public Safety Commission. He will be giving us an update, and that is item 4.1. Sir, welcome.
Thank you again, sir. Good evening once again, City Council, staff, residents of Eastvale. Last night's Public Safety Commission meeting was attended by everyone except myself, and we had a vacant position that was available, and the opportunity was presented for Clint Lormore to appoint Rob Gracia, and we appreciate the new appointment, and I look forward to working with and meeting him as well. We also approved hazard mitigation plan as it was presented to us by city staff. That was pretty much summing up the meeting in its entirety, and I'll take any questions at this time.
Does anybody have any questions for Christian?
Not a question, but a comment. On tonight's agenda, just for yourself, Christian, and the audience, we do have the second reading of the truck ordinance. So again, I wanted to offer my thanks and appreciation to you and the rest of your commission for getting that done. And we're at the tail end of getting this approved and getting it rolled out. So thank you again.
Thank you, sir. This concludes my report.
Excellent. Thank you for the update.
Have a good evening.
You too. All right, that takes us to item 4.2, and that is the introduction of the city's newest office specialist, Samantha McKenzie. Mr. Jones, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to introduce Samantha coming to the podium right now. She has 10 years' experience in customer service. She comes to us from the city of Chino Hills, where she worked in community services for over 4 years. She began working in the city of Chino Hills as a recreation specialist responsible for active adult programming. She also assisted with community events, preparation for city recreation brochure, and contract classes. In 2016, she was promoted to the position of office assistant at the McCoy Equestrian Center, where she oversaw facility reservations and administrative functions. In her free time, she volunteered with senior living and dementia care facilities, as well as the Special Olympics, and is grateful for the experiences and these have offered her. She enjoys spending time with her family, being creative and challenging herself in new ways, and I expect her to challenge all of our code enforcement officers. So we have given her full authority to manage up and keep them out in the field as much as possible, serving our residents and businesses. So Samantha is looking forward to serving many years at the city of Eastville and is happy to be part of our team, and we're happy for her to be part of our team. So she has been on the job for about a week now, a little over a week, and we are excited to see how she helps us be as efficient and effective in our code enforcement and serving our residents and businesses. So we're very elated to have her.
Thank you, Brian. I'm looking forward to working with everybody.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Get a picture.
Yeah, no, I thought she
Okay.
could get away. I was
Okay.
gonna correct her on that.
Have
If we could,
picture?
would you be okay with us taking a picture with you?
She prepared a 10-minute speech, but we're going to let her get
I will pass that up for a picture. That is okay.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you.
Just so the community knows that Samantha will probably be answering a lot of your calls and responding to a lot of your emails when you provide comments on eCitizen, the app for which you can take pictures and report anything out in the community to us. The eCitizen app is a great app to download on your phone, and you can keep it easily accessible to report anything that we need to be responding to in the community. So again, it's the eCitizen app.
Adam, please stay out there because I should have read further ahead. We have, at this time, I'd like to invite the council to join me up front for the presentation of item 4.3, and that is Red Ribbon Week Proclamation. And Robin Jones, would you come on up? All right, gentlemen, if you could join up front. So did you have some things you would like to, well, what would you like to borrow this from? Okay, the city of Eastvale is pleased to proclaim October 23rd through 31st, 2018 as Red Ribbon Week. This year's theme is Life is Your Journey, Travel Drug-Free. It is the goal of Red Ribbon Week and the city to involve families, schools, businesses, churches, law enforcement agencies, and service organizations, and everybody in this room, in all aspects of this campaign, and to establish an atmosphere that supports awareness, education, and ongoing initiatives to prevent illegal drug use. I would like to present this proclamation to Robin Jones and the Red Ribbon Committee. I keep expecting myself to get tongue-tied on this. I'm pretty impressed so far. And thank them for their efforts in making Eastvale a drug-free community. We do have a bunch of whereases here. Do you guys want to take turns with this? We have more than 5. Okay, all right. We tried this last time and messed it up. All right. Sir, if you wouldn't mind.
Whereas the city of Eastvale values the health and safety of all our citizens.
Whereas cities across America have been plagued by the numerous problems associated with alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use.
You gave me the long one. All right. Whereas substance abuse is particularly damaging to one of our most valuable resources, our children, and a contributing factor in the 3 leading causes of death for teenagers, and those are accidents, homicides, and suicides, and...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas it is the goal of Red Ribbon Week in the city of Eastvale to involve families, schools, businesses, churches, law enforcement agencies, and service organizations in all aspects of this campaign and establish an atmosphere that supports awareness, education, and ongoing initiatives to prevent illegal drug use. And
Whereas Red Ribbon Campaign was established by Congress in 1988 to promote this belief and encourage a drug-free lifestyle and involvement in drug prevention efforts.
whereas the Red Ribbon Campaign theme promotes family and individual responsibilities for living drug-free lifestyles, that should say healthy drug-free lifestyles without illegal drugs or the illegal use of drugs or the illegal use of legal drugs, and
we have a lot of activities planned, and we're going to jump straight to 2. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Eastvale does hereby proclaim the week of October 23rd through 31st, 2018 as Red Ribbon Week. Come on down, Robin. Okay, we're going to do a picture first, and then... Would you mind?
I will.
Okay.
Let me.
Okay, perfect.
I'm going to share something with you. I want to invite everybody here to our annual Family Fun Festival this Sunday, Promenade Park. So please come out and support the youth. But just tonight, here, you guys can help me. Each grab a poster. These are posters that Ramirez Intermediate students right here in Eastvale drew. So what I want to invite you all to is... everybody here is welcome to come out and help us judge. This is the amazing artwork that we have to judge. So we like the community to come out, so we're not making the decision. It's a group effort. We have judging November 2nd, Friday, at the Corona Norco Unified School District office in the boardroom, 9 to 2. So if you can come for 10 minutes, an hour, whatever you can help us with. But we thank you on behalf of the school district, Red Ribbon Celebration Committee. Thank you for your support and your proclamation. And we hope to see you at Family Fun Festival or at a judging event.
These are
Thank
very
you.
impressive. Yes.
Yeah, I just received those tonight from Romero, so I was excited to share
We
them.
have to give them back, though.
You have to give them, we have to judge. So,
we have an expert in the house.
thank you very much.
Okay, so at this time, I'd like to invite the council members back up front. I'm kidding. All right, moving on to item 4.4. At this time, I would like to invite Todd Corbin, General Manager of JCSD, and Rod Lamond.
Well, that's it.
Lamond, I like it. Rick Ruh, Administrator, to the speaker's podium to provide the city with an update on the wastewater treatment facility. Mr. Corbin. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to come here, at least my second time, to talk about the operations of the wastewater treatment plant. And spoiler alert, the Dodgers are winning, so everyone can, relax a little bit. But we will try to move through this quickly. The Hrupa Community Services District is part of a group effort, which is called a Joint Powers Authority, a group of agencies that have got together and are part owners of this facility, which is a wastewater treatment facility in the south end of Eastvale along River Road and along the river. The agencies involved are our agency, the Hrupa Community Services District, Rod's agency, the Western Municipal Water District, and they also serve as the plant. He serves as the plant administrator and also their staff as the operators of the plant. The Home Garden Sanitary District, the City of Norco, and the City of Corona. So these 5 agencies work together to fund this facility. It's been in existence since 1998 when the original treatment plant was built. And over the last few years, we have embarked on a large upgrade of that facility, primarily for JCSD's perspective. We were building in capacity to account for all of the new connections and all the build out here within the city of Eastvale. So with the completion of this, which now it is complete, we have enough capacity to serve all of its residents and businesses through our projected build out period. And happy to share additional information with you this evening. Just to give you a perspective, JCSD is a 43% capacity owner in this plant. It was upgraded to 14 million gallons capacity, so we could treat up to 14 million gallons of sewage per day. But currently, JCSD has 57% of the flow. So most of the flow that's going to the plant right now is coming from the JCSD territory. Right now, but the flow is between 3.5 to 4 million gallons of sewage per day. With that, Rod, can I ask you to talk a little bit about the upgrade?
Clarification question, is that 3.5 to 4, is that the 57% or is that total?
That's our share.
That's
what makes up the 57%.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Lorimer, members of the council. So Todd introduced me. I'm Rod Lamond. The mayor got my name right the second time, and I'm the administrator who serves the board. That's the RCRA board. So just like the Eastvale has its council, it has its board. RCRA, this Joint Powers Authority, as Todd described, has its board. And so I serve as the administrator or the chief officer to that board, the administrator of the plant. And our staff, and I'm with Western Municipal Water District, and so our staff, wastewater staff, actually operate the treatment plant. Besides the administrator, I'm also the chief financial officer for Western, and that's my other job. This slide that's up here right now is the information that Todd had just gone over on some background on our agency. And as he promised, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you a little bit about where we're at. In fact, Olivia had reached out to us, staff had reached out to us and asked for an update as to where things are at with the plant. So as many of you know, back in 2015, an effort to expand that plant started, and that effort did not finish up or wind up until January of 2018. So just this last January, the notice of completion was filed. As Todd mentioned, it's been expanded to 14 MGD. Right now, it's flowing just under half that number, right around 7 million gallons a day. And if you look at 7 million gallons a day, you were to try to think of equivalent number of households, because there's 5 agencies that are flowing to that plant. That's roughly around 40,000 households. And so you can imagine as that doubles, that's an awful lot of households that are discharging to that sewage treatment plant. The total cost again was $75 million. There's the construction timeline up on the slide. And there were some real, what I call high-tech, very advanced enhanced odor control measures that were put in at the plant. So a biofilter is essentially a biological process for scrubbing odors. And so there are biologics that get rid of odors. And so that is some of the newer technology that is out there. So that was put in. Chemical scrubbers are being used as well. So a lot of odor scrubbing, as we call it, getting rid of the odorants, happen through the use of chemicals. And then we have a solar drying facility, and what that does is it captures a lot of these odors. It also captures some of the byproducts that come out of a sewage treatment plant. And there was some innovation there because the solar drying facility, we try to do everything we can to recapture water. So the solar drying facility, through the use of heat and the good old sun, does an awful lot to reduce the moisture content of the eventual byproduct that comes out of a treatment plant. We have one other major planned improvement in the works, and that's called a grit washer. And the grit is the other things that wind up in sewers and stuff like that, including a certain kind of paper. And that stuff has to be cleaned, essentially. And that's what this grit washer does. So these four bubbles here describe roughly about $4 million in odor control enhancements, things that if you were here 3 years ago, none of that was operating inside that plant. It didn't have that kind of technology. So moving on, we list up here 2 regulatory agencies. I think these are the 2 probably of interest to this council. There's others clearly during construction and so on and so forth that we're regulated by. But the Air Quality Management District is one of those regulators. They have a particular interest in all of the odor control measures. So each odor control piece of equipment or process has to be permitted by the AQMD. So you can imagine that previous slide we were talking about that biofilter. They're involved in the construction of that biofilter, that biofilter is constructed to certain standards, and we work with their engineers. And then they also, when it comes to operating these odor control measures, we have to operate within tolerances that they have established. So that biofilter, which is in about the center of the plant, has a 1 part per million tolerance. So you can imagine a large liter of soda, and there's 1 million milliliters inside that, so that you're down to that close of a tolerance. As you move to the chemical scrubbers, which are closer to the borderline with the community, it's 1/10 of 1 part. So that's how tight those tolerances are. And it takes some effort to get there. So it isn't all just the mechanical operations, but clearly what the staff does, its know-how, and constant cleaning of the plant occurs. The Santa Ana Regional Water Quality Board is up there because one of the byproducts coming out of a wastewater treatment plant now with recycling capability is water. And so previously, or really even right now, the water that would come through and be treated would go to the Santa Ana River. And that's where the Regional Water Quality Control Board comes in, is that water has to be clear of something called coliforms. And we used to have problems with that, but not after completing this new plant upgrade and everything. So we've got no water quality problems, and one of the byproducts out of all of this will be this recycled water. This plant will probably be capable of producing at least 10,000 acre feet of recycled water. Stuff that has actually gone in the river and gone to another county, Orange County, is now going to be available for use in our service area. And 10,000 acre feet is a lot of water. So an acre foot is the size of a football field, about 1 foot deep. So that's an awful lot of water. Next slide. Odor management and where we're at. So as we completed the project and we got the odor control devices up and running, we also ramped up our odor management activities. And so odor is something every day we have to manage it. We have to make sure that the equipment, the processes are working. We have to be out there and we have to sample. We respond to complaints. In fact, the complaints really should come to us because ultimately we are the ones that have to deal with complaints. We had a tour recently of invited the neighborhood surrounding the plant, and that was on middle of July. And we reinforced that with them, that there's a complaint procedure. This is the procedure you should follow. And what it does is it informs us time, day, where, the location, so we can go ahead and take action on that. Some of that ongoing monitoring is constant sampling. We're now moving to what's called air dispersion modeling, which is a process of saying somebody smells something over in a certain part of a neighborhood. What we want to be able to do is trace that back to something, what's causing it. A lot of times odorants mix. We actually have some other, what I'll call odor producers in our neighborhood in terms of laying manure and things like that. And so it's very important that we be able to trace an odor to a locale. You can smell something maybe on one street, and you could just hop over to the next street and you won't smell anything. And so the wind patterns, air temperature, a whole lot has to do with odors and the fact that people are smelling them. So I'm wrapping up here. So we have these community outreach, and we do things to inform the community. So I think our last formal communication to the immediate community was in mid-August, just reminding them again how to lodge an odor complaint. And then what we do in the bottom half of that slide is that the very first thing we verify is the plant in compliance. Because if it's not in compliance, then maybe that's likely causing the odor. So we check that. We investigate all odors. I say potential up there because even a potential. If we think something or somebody thinks something, we go out and investigate it. We record the data. We share the results of the complaint on the website, expunged of any information in terms of the person that's actually, there's no personal information that's shared. And there's a little click here to report an odor button. That button is not if we click it, but on our website, that green button is up there. So with that, that's just a brief overview. We just, again, completed the plant. I think we're really, yep. So I'm going to ask Todd to kind of come back up, and we'll be glad to take any questions you might have and then close this out for you.
Excellent. Thank you well, first of all, thank you both for coming out this evening and providing this update. Want to bring it up to the dais. Also, anybody in the audience that is here for this issue, if you could please complete a speaker request form and hand it to our clerk, it would be appreciated. We'd like to get your comments in as well. Does anybody on the dais have any comments or questions at this time?
Mr. Mayor, I have a few.
Yes, Mr. Rush.
But do we have any public comments? I'd like to hear that first if we do.
We have not received any public comment cards.
Okay. Is anybody here for this item? Do you want to come up and speak? You don't have to. Okay. We'll reserve for you to come up after the fact if indeed you decide to. Okay, Mr. Rush.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you for attending. I know this has been not the easiest process over the years, but appreciate you coming. Just full disclosure, I actually had reached out to staff through a conversation that I had with Public Safety Commissioner DeCosta, who lives in the area, to kind of get this going. So it's my fault you're here and missing the Dodger game. But I got to be here too, so, What's the score, Stephen?
There's only half smiles over there on the faces.
I know. I do have a few questions. I don't mean to sound crass, but they are a little bit blunt, but I appreciate your answers. I don't know if we want to go back to that slide, but on the total $75 million cost, how much of that ballpark percentage was provided through grants or through AQMD assistance? Do you know?
I'll take that. None of it.
None of it.
None of it from grants or none of it from AQMD assistance.
So what was the general source of funding?
So the financing mechanism is a state revolving fund loan. We're able to obtain a low interest loan from the state. Clean Water Act, that's it. And in fact, that loan is 1.9% at extremely low interest rate. And so the 5 member agencies have entered into an arrangement with RCRA, the organization, to contribute funds to go ahead and pay back that or pay off that $75 million.
Yeah, I've written several of those grants, so I'm familiar with it. A lot of my questions are, I guess, kind of parroting what I've heard through various means, and I know you've probably heard the same.
We have.
Yeah.
Probably.
And I think, part of this discussion is to understand from our perspective and staff's perspective, because we're kind of on the outside here, but a lot of times we get a majority of the complaints, and there's not much that we could do other than, and have you gracious enough to come here and explain it to us. So I appreciate that. You had gone through kind of the existing capacity. We're more or less built out. We have a few parcels left, but where do you see this facility in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years, with the existing customer base you have now? Is it planned, or do you have plans, get some feedback here, to accommodate for the growth of the region? Or is this something that is going to reach its lifespan in the next 10 or 20 years?
Well, and you can comment on that, but why don't you comment on it?
From JCSD's perspective, we have all the capacity in the plant that we're going to need to meet our build-out demands. I haven't been part of any discussions that have contemplated any further expansion of this plant for other regional regional reasons. Wastewater treatment used to be an agency by agency function. Many years ago, back in the 70s, there was a big push to regionalize that effort because of the ability to share costs across multiple jurisdictions, especially in this area where many of those jurisdictions were small and didn't have the funding to build their own plant or maintain it to the standards. Because as regulations increase, the cost to operate and treat the wastewater continues to rise. So
yeah,
we are stuck with a regional plant, and but we think it serves the community in a really cost-effective way.
Water regulation is always a moving target. Part of kind of the social media banter is it smells, call AQMD. And, I've seen and heard these phone trees of AQMD complaints. A good friend of mine, Councilmember Mayor Wildemar, is one of the board members, and we've had a couple conversations. But just in general, can you explain what your relationship is with the district, the Air District? Do you have any outstanding violations? Have you, on your end, because I hear the community's end, on your end, how are you dealing with each other?
Well, I think very well. So what we do is we take the initiative to stay in touch with them, and we've had every reason to in terms of an expanding plant and new things coming online. So we have to have a working relationship because of the permitting process. And so the AQMD has inspectors, it has people who do things besides inspection. They're enforcement people. They have engineers. They have a whole group of staff. And they have the right to inspect that plant whenever they want to. So they have that authority. And so what people have done is they've called the AQMD, and we would like them to call us, but they call the AQMD. If enough of them call, what the AQMD has to do is respond by sending one of their inspectors to the area and see if they notice something. And if they notice something, they usually come out, they contact us. They can get a hold of us 24/7. They have that kind of contact capability with us. And then there have been times when there's been complaints and they'll say, I smell something, I want to tour the plant. And so they'll get into the plant, and there's been times when things have been found. So from I'll go to the penalty side of things. It's not in AQMD's best, they regulate others besides wastewater treatment plants. So they regulate private companies and things like that. In any regulatory fines and things like that, when they hit a governmental entity, they fall on the backs of the ratepayers and stuff like that. We're not a for-profit entity, we're just like the city. So what they do is they issue these notices of violation. They're really just handheld tickets that they write out. And on a particular date, they'll give us notice that you had this violation. There were enough people that complained, and we verified, because there's been times when multiple people within a household will try to make a complaint, and they'll say, no, it's one complaint per household, that kind of thing. So what we do is we have telephonic constant communication about this, and when things are identified, what is it that you're doing to go ahead and get it corrected? And so it's that kind of working it's not an adversarial relationship. It can get maybe adversarial if we don't do something that they order us to do. But it isn't. We have to work with them. And one of our problems is we end up having to get complaint information from them long after the fact that isn't contemporaneous, and so we can't get out there and check something out. So there's delays sometimes as we get stuff from them. So at this tour that we did on, it was July 14th, there was one individual from the immediate community that came over, and he said, I wish my neighbors were here because they complain a lot. And, so he was able to see the plant, and we took him right up against one of those odor control facilities and asked him, not just him, but other people there, do you smell anything? Maybe a little musty or anything like that. Let me crack the door to that thing. And they get kind of blown over with the level of odor that stuff is successfully treating. Mm-hmm. And we want to actually get a relationship with these people that complain, so that what we can do is identify times of day, things like that. We can actually take a test device to them and say, or a wheel, does it smell like this? Because there's maybe 8 different types of odorants that can get out there, and they come from different processes. So if somebody just says it stinks or it smells and we can't get anything else, well, which one of the 8 is it? Because we can go to different sources and things like that. I'll give you a figure. So in July of 2017, we had a total of about 160 complaints made with the AQMD. That's quite a bit. This last July, we had 37. And they know, and of course we know, and our board is committed to get that number down, is to drive that down. But it's a time-consuming process. It's a process that requires capital fixes or process fixes and things like that, or just educating plant operators. So there's many different ways to respond to this. And we think we're doing a good job of responding. We haven't maybe made everything go away, but we see all the trend lines and everything like that, and we're marching in the right direction.
And I think that's important. It's a difficult scenario to explain because obviously the plant is a vital facility. I wouldn't want to see the situation that would occur without it. And it's an existing facility, but that was kind of towards my capacity question, because when I talk to residents, it's, the problem is, I don't say it's going to get worse, but your job is going to get more challenging as more houses are built. I think that's obvious. But it's good to see that those are trending down. I think my last question, kind of on the enforcement aspect with the water board, there's nothing that is significant or outstanding with them at this point in time?
We are wrapping up a financial settlement with the water board.
Okay.
So on the water board side, we had coliform discharges into the river, and each discharge has a minimum penalty with it for a governmental agency. And so we
I'm very familiar with those.
Oh yeah, I can share that with you. So over the course of close to 3 years, and we haven't had one now since November of last year. And it's because the technology was changed. So we went from an ultraviolet kind of treatment to a chlorine contact treatment. And so what that did was that it eliminated the problem with the coliforms. But that financial settlement was $242,000. Part of that we negotiated with them was we tried to get it down, so that's natural. But part of that settlement was to do a habitat project in our service area. And so we were able to go ahead and find a habitat project that another agency was looking for some financial assistance on. And so the state was nice enough to say, yeah, instead of us taking the money and sending it maybe up north, let's just put half that money back into the area in terms of a habitat restoration project.
We're all for not sending money to Sacramento.
And I might add, council member, that's a fair amount of that is insured. It's the actual insurer paying that.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have. Again, I really appreciate you guys coming out and giving your side of the story. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, can I just add one important piece of information? That is, we understand that there are odors at times from the plant. Sometimes it's a chemical smell. So this chemical scrubber process somehow is now contributing to the smell, not necessarily smell from the waste stream. And you would think that you would call the agency up, we'd go out and try to make some changes to the equipment and try to make things better. However, we have a very strict tolerance of operating the equipment within the permit, because if you're not operating the equipment within the permit, then that potentially opens up violations, different violations that we want to desperately avoid. So it's sort of a bureaucratic process to work through all that. As Rod mentioned, we're committed to not just stopping with 37 complaints in 1 month. We want to get them down to 0 or as low number as possible. And we would invite the council and staff and any member of the public that would like to see what goes on out there to take a look. It's quite an operation, and it's getting better month by month.
And it's becoming a community resource with the recycled water. So something that wasn't available before will be available, not tomorrow, it'll take a little while, but it's actually going to give something back to the community.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Platt, do you have some questions?
I have two. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two quick questions. How many, I don't know if you know this off the top or if you guys keep track of this, but how many complaints would you receive maybe on a monthly basis? I know these complaints may be seasonal depending on winds or if it's annual. How many complaints do you receive within the city of Eastvale, within Eastvale residents? And I have a follow-up question to that.
Well, they're virtually coming from Eastvale, so it's the immediate vicinity to the plant, that is. So take my agency. My agency is something like 8 miles away from the plant, and so people out of the westerns aren't anywhere near the plant. So it's the people that are next to the plant, and like this time of year. So when I say this time of the year, when you get to about September, you get hardly. In fact, I think we had something in September. Yeah. But nothing in the latter half, nothing in October. So the weather patterns change. And as the heat levels come down, winds change and things like that, we'll go months without it. And I don't have any reliable statistic that's predictable because of a lot of the things that we're doing to try to reduce it. So that mention of 2017 was our highest year. And we were still in the thick of things with the odor improvement and control measures, and we're just getting better and better as each month goes on.
Oh, thank you for that. You're going off what Councilman Rush had mentioned. He mentioned about social media bantering, and you had mentioned about just building a relationship with our residents. I think, having, being able to, welcome residents to facilities, I think it's a great idea. Is there maybe something we can put a plan in place, maybe some type of relationship with the city to say, something that's recurring, like, hey, biannually, twice a year, the plant's open, on this day. Maybe it's prior to the summertime, right? Maybe sometime after.
Do it prior or after, but we can do that.
Yeah, I think that'd be good as far as, if there's something we can work out. I think that'd be good with building a relationship, because I think it also would avoid a lot of social media bantering. And if there is bantering, hopefully one of those residents that are on social media can attest to being at the plant and their help, help our cause and help your cause as far as just being able to kind of mitigate some of the complaints. And I think it would help us tremendously.
We can certainly do that. One of the things that people get, if they come to it, out of it, is that they see all of the investment and the level of effort that is being put in, and they get an understanding of how these odors get generated and what all these things are, and they're virtually almost blown away by it.
And that's exactly why. I think once they see that and you have more eyes in the facility that see that, I think they'll be impressed, and therefore, the hope is that the complaints would go down and they would know who to complain to as well. And
so we could work with your public information officer to get something set up.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for answering my questions.
And Councilman Platt, too, one of the challenges, if you've ever been out there, the plant and portion of the plant where these chemical scrubbers are could be where this wall is, and someone's backyard could be literally just on the other side of that wall. It's literally across the street. This development was entitled. It's in a spot where the normal westerly wind patterns are. There's lots of things that make it even more challenging to to kind of work out those issues. So on any one day, it could be an issue, even though you, on a monthly basis, really have almost no complaints. So we're trying to get it down to that level so that, as we talked about this air dispersion modeling, so we can understand exactly where something can be done in the plant. And that something is going to require more capital, more treatment, more operations, but we want to do what we can to be good neighbors to that portion of the community.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Todd.
Okay, I did have a couple follow-up questions. The slide up here talks about going from 8 million to 14 million a day in terms of capacity. And I believe you had mentioned 3.5 to 4 is 57%, so we're at 7?
7, yeah, correct. We're flowing by half capacity right now.
So the comment from Councilmember Rush about capacity and future development from the area, and I'm assuming it was built to that higher end, to 14 million for a reason. How close to capacity in terms of future growth for the area do we expect to get to through that treatment facility?
Well, because much of that flow is going to come from agencies that's not JCSD, I'm not sure how much or when. However, of our 6 million gallons a day, we have, as I mentioned, flowing up to 4 right now. We think we'll be over 5 by the time we get to build out. But you always have to have extra capacity in a wastewater treatment plant. You can't just go up to your capacity because the regulatory agencies require you to have excess capacity.
We did have one. We did add one new member agency back in 2013, and that was the city of Corona. So even though the plant's been around since the late 90s, Corona wasn't part of the agency. So Corona invested in the expansion because Corona, beginning this, actually probably next year, will begin sending flows to that plant. And so Corona expects to use up close to 3 MGD of that new capacity.
Okay, on that, are of the 4 control features that you have in place, one coming in spring of 2019, the grit washer, is this expected to take care of not only the current odors, but also the increases?
Right, so these odor control measures are designed to go ahead and treat up to this 14 MGD.
Okay.
So when you look at the bioreactor, the one was the bubble, that was biofilter, excuse me. So the biofilter is capable of handling a lot larger volume than it currently has. Same thing with the solar dryer, same thing with the chemical scrubbers. And so those things were built. They can be expanded, but they were built to handle the capacity. There's another major improvement that we're working on that's part of the biological process, and that's a bioreactor. I tripped up and mentioned that word. We have 2 of them right now. We're moving to a 3rd. And what that does is that builds in some redundancy and some safety into the plant, and it helps improve the biological processes that go on in the plant. That improvement alone, which is probably, it's targeted for next year, is another $3 million that you're adding to the capital investment to help improve the plant. So there's always going to be some ongoing things that happen, but these major odor control measures are quite capable of handling everything. There's other things that we do in what's called the collection system. And so the odors can come from, yes, they come from the plant, but stuff gets sent to the plant through a collection system. And there's things that we can do inside the collection systems to make odors better as well. So in fact, that's one thing that we started doing 2 months ago, is to begin to suppress some odors before they get to the plant.
That sounds wonderful. One of the things, the comment earlier, complaints should come to us. I appreciate that they come to us as well on social media, and which is, I think, why we asked you gentlemen to come here tonight, and we appreciate you doing so. But one of the comments has been about dead fish smell.
Right.
Raw fish or rotting fish smell, and is that part of the biologics? And it took away one smell and then it created another.
It's complicated, and Todd mentioned before that the rotten fish smell is actually mostly chemicals.
Okay.
It's not totally chemicals, so there's some biologics going on, but there's ways to go ahead and treat that and take care of that as well. So there are some terms that I could use. There's a thing called amines, and there are odorants that are easily detectable to the nose. So what we do is we get out there and say, well, there's this kind of odor, but unless you've got a huge big nose or extremely smell sensitive, people wouldn't really ever notice it, because it's not the kind of thing that is necessarily irritating or sensitive to the nose. Some of the things that we do, we just recently did these baseline tests. What we do is, so how do these odorant tests work? So this is going to sound like a made-up story. So what we do is we take bags of air samples, and we hope to trap these odorants inside these bags. These bags get controlled by a lab. And one of the tests that the lab puts through, there are people out there that are called professional sniffers. And so it sounds like a made-up story, but there's actually people that are quite capable of filtering out certain kind of things. So it has to go back east, because they don't have those people around here. But that's how the level of effort you go through to try to detect something. In the end, there's nothing better than the human nose. So that's just part of the testing process. So I can appreciate, we heard at the tour from this one resident that, a lot of people are complaining to the city. And I said, well, you need to go out to your neighborhood and tell them, please redirect it here. And I think after doing the tour, he said, well, you're the guys that are really capable of fixing it. Yep. And we have a board that wants it fixed. So there's not a lack of will or anything like that. It's not about being adversarial. It's about, getting that stuff down where hopefully we're not bothering the community.
So on that point, your average resident doesn't understand the difference between one government agency and another. It's government, right? So they reach out, we're going to call our city council, or text our city council, or message, or Instagram message. It goes on. Anyway, salute. So we appreciate you guys coming in, and we will, of course, continue to be in communication on this. I did want to ask one other question, and then Mayor Pro Tem Rigby had a follow-up question. The 2019, the grit washer spring, is that on track in terms of completion?
Yes, and that is the ideal time to have something finished just in time for the hotter months.
Okay.
And so that's being constructed for us now.
Yep. Okay, Mr. Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing this information with us. Just as you were sharing that Corona has recently joined the agency, how long ago did they join?
They joined in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah, but they have not been flowing anything to the plant yet.
And do you have any anticipation that any other agencies will join?
No, we believe this is the final makeup of the wastewater authority.
Okay.
Yeah, and wasn't the city of Corona in the? There was an initial building of the plant, and the city of Corona was part of the initial build of the plant. They left and came back, but I think I know someone over at the city of Corona. We can give them maybe her card, and she can respond to.
But there's nothing with your JPA that doesn't allow another agency to join right now. Then, right? And the only reason I asked
I'd have to look.
The only reason I ask that is because the facility has a max capacity.
Yeah.
If we continue to add agencies,
Yeah.
that max capacity is going to be reached a lot faster. And the current agencies, I would hate to see the current agencies not allocated to what JCSD is supposed to be allocated to by ownership wise.
Right. So capacity sales, if they occur, they require unanimous approval at the board level, and they have to occur within the membership. There are some exceptions where if somebody were to leave then somebody else can be invited in, but I'm not aware of anybody. who wants-
Also, it's so difficult because you have to deliver your, wastewater to the plant, and that's an expensive endeavor to pipe that. The only agency you may think, like the city of Chino, which is close by, they're in a different county, they're in a different wastewater jurisdiction. They're not, at this point, permitted to deliver their wastewater to us in Riverside County. So, and also, I think all the agencies believe that that's the capacity they ultimately need. So I don't foresee anyone else being added.
We had a question from the community one time about, well, could the plant be moved? And we told them that the total investment in that plant's about $500 million. And that's a huge investment to eat. And, but not only eat, it's there, then you have to go somewhere else and do that same thing, so. Thank you.
Okay. I did want to see if anybody from the audience would like to speak on this issue. Yes, sir.
Thank you. City Council, city staff, and thank you for coming. My name is Frank. I live in Fabiola Lane, so I'm literally in that area. So it's just right next to the Ronald Reagan School, so we can literally walk to that plant. Thank you for sharing a lot of information, which is very important. Just one thing I want to add on is, it seems like during the summertime is where we can smell the most odor. That's the big problem for us because, this July, there's one day, I remember like July 4th, July 6th, we got 110, and plus that odor. That's really bad, those residents in that area. We just want to see if those, enhanced odor control features, is there anything that can be specific for during the summertime? That we can do some precautions, like right now, so next summer, we won't have the same issue. Because like you said, after September, I think now we should be okay. But during that, I think between June to August, we would like to see if there's something can be done right now, so we won't have at least to minimize the issues that we're going to come in next year.
Recently,
thank you.
Done is on the.
Okay. Yeah, please. Thank you, Frank, for your comments.
I just want you to know that that's our intent is to get there. So we've recently added some more treatment area to the chemical scrubbers and stuff like that, adding filter media for the purpose of just making something even better. And this grit bin washer is going to get rid of a lot of odors as well. And this active odor management process that we talk about is to identify things that we can do and bring to our board. So I think we're moving in the right direction. And the summertime is the time when it's most susceptible.
We know that dairy, farm is totally different.
Right.
And plus the hot heat, is very uncomfortable.
Well, if you please log on to our website if you smell something and fill out the form, because the form will take you through a series of questions and stuff like that. It's that feedback that we get that we need to actually help improve things. So we need to hear from the community when something is not smelling well.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you gentlemen coming out today. Thank you for the report and update, and fingers crossed on spring 2019 being successful. All right, looking forward to it. All right, thank you again for coming out today. Thank you for your comments. Moving on to item 5, and that's our student liaison report from Brian Medina. Sir, welcome.
Good evening. Sorry, I'm kind of sick at the moment, so my voice does sound a little weird. East Elementary is in the middle of parent conferences for all tracks B, C, and D. B track will be going off this Friday, the 26th, and A track will be returning from their 1-month break on Monday. They're celebrating Red Ribbon Week, as how it was proclamated today also. And also today they had a BMX show, which allowed for many students to be encouraged, and it was open to the entire school. River Heights just held an induction ceremony for their 2018-2019 National Junior Honor Society, where 56 8th graders were inducted this year, and they're extremely proud of that. This week, they are also hosting a BMX assembly to reward RHIS students for earning 100 or more hero points. Students can earn hero points for demonstrating the Colts way, which represents responsibility, safety, integrity, and all of those different good things that or good aspects found within a student. 800 of the total of 1,235 students enrolled actually earned the right to attend a special assembly. The assembly is basically a whole bunch of dirt bike riders or special bikers that come and just show their skills, and they do 360s, they do a whole bunch of different skills that will get the students excited. While Ramirez Intermediate is celebrating Red Ribbon Week, of course, all of this week, featuring fabulous art from our students, promoting a drug-free lifestyle, spirit-wear events daily, fun events at lunch, and ending with a fabulous Halloween dance this Friday. The annual Wolfpack Dash Color Run is happening this Saturday, so they hope that you can join them this Saturday starting at 10:30, and it's $25 per runner. And the game of the century for basketball versus River Heights is scheduled for November 15th at the Roosevelt Gym. There will be snacks available for purchase and some awesome Eastville rivalry going on inside the gym. In the preseason game, River Heights girls won and Ramirez boys won. So Ramirez is looking to take both of these trophies once again. And 4 exemplary Ramirez students were recognized this month, or will be recognized November 13th by the CNUSD Board of Education, November 13th at 5:30. While Eleanor Roosevelt High School, tomorrow will be having an amazing opportunity for all freshmen girls to attend the KIND campaign assembly. That means more than 600 freshmen will be going out of their first lunch and not attending their 5th period to watch a presentation which stands for #NoMeanGirls. They're excited that they were one of the 35 schools chosen nationwide for this tour, and it is completely free for Eleanor Roosevelt High School. And if you want any more information, it will be coming out October 22nd. In the meantime, Susical will be opening up their first show this Friday at 7 p.m. Also this Friday, we will be hosting a Relay for Life event where it's our 2nd annual event. Last year, it was our 1st year, and we had a goal of raising $600 towards the American Cancer Society, and we actually reached $1,300, and our goal this year is $3,000, so anyone in the community is welcome to come. It is from 3 to 6 p.m. and we'll be doing laps, we'll be having food vendors, and it'll be a lot of fun, and there will be performers there. Recently, this Saturday, Roosevelt High School had a bathroom renovation for all 12 bathrooms on campus, only for the student bathrooms. They were transformed from the regular green old bathrooms, and they were written on with inspiring quotes or themes. One bathroom was Disney inspired, which had a whole bunch of famous Disney quotes and Disney characters. Another one was Marvel. Another one was about reaching towards the stars and reaching towards the galaxy. And it's just a way for the student leaders on campus to encourage all the other students to, even as the simplest thing as walking into the bathroom and just viewing a motivational quote and encouraging them to do better. While the STEM program was awarded the Solar Cup sponsorship and will have the opportunity to build a boat and race it. This sponsorship was $4,000, and they are also presenting their work with project-based learning and 21st century skills at the California Department of Education STEAM Symposium this weekend at the Queen Mary. And that's all.
Excellent. Thank you for the update. Do we have any questions from the dais? So are you a BMX guy?
No.
No. All right. Are you going to the Game of the Century or Susical?
No.
Oh man, I want to do these. I want to go to these things.
You can go to Susical.
Okay. All right.
Purchase your ticket at ERHS.books. BMX, I don't think the school will reject you.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Anybody? Thank you, sir. Appreciate the update. And feel better. Okay, that concludes our student liaison report. Moving on to item number 6, and those are public comments. Any member of the public may address the council on items within the council's subject matter jurisdiction, but which are not listed on the agenda during public comments. However, no action may be taken on matters that are not part of the posted agenda. We request that comments made on the agenda be made at the time that the item is considered, and that comments be limited to 3 minutes per person. Please address your comments to the council as a whole, and do not engage in dialogue with individual council members, city staff, or members of the audience. Mr. Aguilar, have we received any requests from the audience to speak?
Yes, we received 7 public comment cards, the first one being from Wayne Brown, followed by Betty Yu.
Wow.
Good evening, Mayor and council members.
Good evening.
My name is Wayne Brown, and I represent the Riverside County Transportation Authority Commission. Don't say that. RCTC and the Orange County Transportation Authority will be upgrading the 91 express lanes to comply with new transponder technology mandated by the state. This will allow us in the future to utilize what will be looking like a barcode strip on a vehicle versus the hardware that we're used to as a basic transponder. RCTC will also be restriping the westbound 91 express lanes for continuous access at the county line. This work will require 3 weekend closures of the 91 express lanes and intermittent closures of 1 to 3 general purpose lanes starting November 9th. There will be no work done over the Thanksgiving Day weekend. RCTC will meet with area emergency responders and city, county, and agency PIOs, including Olivia, on November 1st to provide more information. We will be reaching out to area motorists through social media, our websites, overhead signs, local and SoCal media, along with major resort destinations and event centers to provide specific details of the closures. We are encouraging motorists to expect delays, avoid the area, and allow extra travel time. Like all construction activities, this work is subject to change and may be rescheduled if we have bad weather or construction issues. Details and maps for each weekend closure will be posted to the 15 Express Lanes website at 15project.info and social media sites at 15 Express Lanes. I have provided the council and staff with details of the weekend closures. The final schedule will be set by the end of the month. Thank you for your time and attention, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. It took us a good deal of time to create those 3 maps, trust me.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Any questions from up here?
Like I say, we will update information on this, and Olivia will be at the meeting on November 1st, where we will brief first responders and PIOs within the area on it.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby.
Thank you. Do we have an extra one of these that we could just put at the back table?
I put actually a whole stack out at the table.
Perfect, thank you.
For people to, and again, this information will be sent to the city separately in electronic messages for addition to the social media pages. We have really good relationship with Eastvale on all of our projects, so as we go forward.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Where do you get the transponders for to use the toll thing so that everybody knows where to get those?
Well, at this point, it would be the 91 Express Lanes customer service, and you can go up online to their website and get it. Eventually, as we finish up the 15 Express Lanes project, we're going to have a new customer service facility and operations that will be just off of the 91, just to the east of the 15. A new facility up there will be a little bit easier for people to get to. As we see this whole technology transform moving forward, and we begin to eliminate the old hardware, move forward to this barcode type piece, it's going to be much easier for people to get to. It's going to be much less cost also when it comes to people to add on this. The one thing that will remain will be if you utilize the switchable transponders, the one that will take you from one individual to 3+, as you see in many areas like on the 91, where it requires that type of thing to identify 3+ riders in the vehicle to give you discounts. That type of transponder will still be required. It will be necessary to have that kind of a transponder on the 15 because of all of the multiple ingress and egress points that we're going to have on the 15 miles of the 15 where you can get in and out constantly through it. So, but we will see this basic transponder go to this type of barcode system, which will be much easier for people to deal with. And that will probably even go through the mail at this point.
So you just order them online?
It'll be easy to order them online, or they will tell you to go pick them up at a point.
Okay.
You can still, and again, any system that you purchase, whether you pick up a transponder in Orange County, at the TCA facility, at OCTA's facility, or out here, all of them have to work on every system. You can take a transponder from here and go up to Northern California and utilize it on the Golden Gate Bridge or the Oakland Bridge. So these systems have to work statewide, which is why they're moving to this technology update throughout the state.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Joe?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Will all of these lanes have the ability for potential users who are not subscribers to use it on a case-by-case basis?
No, especially as you move forward, the 91, any of these express lanes will require some type of transponder to track, especially on the new 15. 15 will require, you will have to have it. The only one at this point that does not require a transponder is TCA, back on the toll road. But when it comes to being in a express lane on the 91 or on the new 15, there will have to be some type of transponder. And that's why they're trying to go to this much smaller, easier to use, and obviously it's going to be less cost because you're not going to be dealing with the hardware issue that they've had to in the past.
And the way it works right now, correct me if I'm mistaken, but if you were to purchase a transponder, you have to put a small deposit on it.
Yeah,
or there's a minimum. And then if you don't use it over a certain amount of time, your transponder is no good anymore. Is that no?
No.
Okay.
It continues. What they will do, though, in normal situation is they will charge, depending upon the
annual
agency,
fee?
they'll charge you a monthly administrative fee going along whether you use it or not. But and that's where they're trying to bring some consistency across different agencies so that you don't have 4 or 5 different sets of rules that you're playing with. So I think that's where we're trying to head toward.
It doesn't seem like a really good well, I mean, I guess you've done all your business models. But, I mean, if there's a number of people that want to use the lane, it's more money going to the tolls. But I know that's not you, but that's my personal opinion. I think it should be available to everybody anytime. But thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Okay. We have our next public comment.
Yes, it's going to be Betty Wu followed by Felicia Chen.
Excellent. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and member of the council, city staff, everyone else. Rather having a comment, I think I have a question. Recently, just came to my attention, there is a blue flyer out there. It's about the zoning code section 5.8.d.3. It's about the yard waste, free yards, trash waste, free yards, and also any unplanted areas of the yard needs to be covered by mulch and bark and so forth. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm a little confused is because my lot is on the corner lot. And that means once my side yard is maintained by the Halupa Community District Service or whatever. And the area is not fully planted, doesn't have mulch and doesn't have box covering. And a while ago, I called them, and the answer given to me is they are not going to put mulch or anything like that, or replacing it. So I'm a little confused on that. Is this code only applied to the residents, not the district? And if this is the case, I suggest that you make very specific statements to include or exclude. But if you exclude, that's making a double standard for residents and the district. So it's making the city to be subject to lawsuit. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Regular, and maybe one of our staff members can follow up with you, okay? If you could. But, Mr. Regular, we have our next public comment?
Yes, our next public comment card is from Felicia Chin, followed by Brian Miglucci.
Hello, good evening, your mayor and city councilman. First, the library would like to announce that we do have a part-time page position available for those that may be interested in wanting to work at the library. The position is only 10 hours per week, and those interested should be available to work Monday through Saturday, including evenings. The page position should also be comfortable in working with a kid-friendly environment. If anyone is interested in this position, please contact Eastvale Public Library for further information or go to lssi.com. Second, the Eastvale Public Library is happy to announce that we are in the progress of getting a Friends of the Library very soon. Gaining a Friends of the Library at Eastvale would give us many opportunities to support and grow as a community. Paperwork has been submitted and approved by the Secretary of State and is now awaiting approval from the federal government. Also, discussions of establishing a logo has been underway. Gail Polson is the chair of the Friends of the Library, and we are actively looking to fill other positions. Any Eastvale resident who is looking to join as an officer can contact eastvilefol@gmail.com for more information. We are excited to have this progress further into a full-blown organization. We also do have a few events at the library well underway. For the week of the 22nd through the 27th, excluding Thursday, we do have a Teen Craft Week where you can stop by and make Monster Slap theme bracelets. There is still plenty of time to join in on this activity, and all are welcome to stop by for some Halloween fun. As a reminder, we still have the candy party for the 27th of this month. Any child who checks out 10 books will receive a small bag of candy. It is limited to the first 25 children. The whole month for this month, the family story time is also Halloween themed, and so be sure to stop by and enjoy some spooky stories and scary crafts. We hope you stop by to Eastvale Public Library for a month of Halloween excitement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, Mr. Rush?
Thank you very much. I'm just curious what this Friends of the Library application is. Could you explain that a little bit further?
Yeah, so it's just an organization that's going to be coming up soon. It'll be in charge of handling our cash procedures, as well as it's for the book sale that we have going on currently. So it's just an organization that will be taking care of that.
Cool. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear about that position. Maybe there's somewhere for me to fall after city council, so.
Thank you.
Just kidding. Thank you very much.
The position that was announced, the page position.
Right.
Is that something that you can share with the city? Can we find it on your website? Is it easy?
Yes, it's actually under lssi.com.
And what is LS?
It's our organization. It's LS&S Library Systems and Association. library system services information,
If we go to lssi.com, it immediately takes us to this position?
It will take it to its website, and underneath that, there should be a link for careers. And once you click that link, it should pop up.
Excellent, okay. Awesome, thank you, appreciate it. Thank you for the update,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Mr. Aguilar.
Brian Miaglucci, followed by Caleb Broughton.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I would have a question. Does the City of Eastville have a sister city? And if not, are we going to have any desire to obtain one?
Yes, we do not, okay.
I can answer that if you'd
Yeah,
like. If you'd like. We currently do not have a sister city. We're only 8 years young, and so we're still establishing ourselves. And we would love to have a sister city. And so if there's a group in the community that there's a community in another country that would align with us in either an economic place or a cultural place that we could benefit from, I would be very much interested in visiting with somebody from the community that has an idea on that. So we'd be happy it's on our to-do list of things we want to do, but we've had a few other higher issues like opening up council chambers first, and opening up this place and getting the air conditioning working. So, but we would definitely like to have a sister.
Good job on the air conditioning.
Well, we just put an 8-ton AC unit on there today, so they just couldn't get it started before 5:30. So.
Okay, is there a process that we can recommend or go through, or?
You can send me an email if you'd like, and we can get that going.
We agree with your sentiment. It is on our priority list.
Thank you.
No, thank you, sir. You said we had 7, right, Mr. Aguilar?
Yes, we have Caleb Broughton, followed by Matthew Arnold.
Excellent. Good evening.
Hello, I'm Kayla Broughton. I'm a senior at Notre Dame High School in Riverside, and I'm here to talk to you guys about the importance of clean air and the prevention of air pollution. So, air pollution is one of the most dangerous problems in the world. It is the contamination of the atmosphere by harmful chemicals or biological materials, and California is one of the most polluted states in the USA. Air pollution can cause long-term and short-term health effects. It's found that elderly and young children are more affected by air pollution. Short-term health effects include eye, nose, and throat irritation, headaches, allergic reactions, and upper respiratory infections. Some long-term health effects are lung cancer, brain damage, liver damage, kidney damage, heart disease, and respiratory disease. Issues like these are very dangerous for children and elders. The top cities in California that are polluted are Los Angeles, Long Beach, Riverside, and Bakersfield. And if these issues are not stressed enough and the residents of Eastville and cities near do not educate themselves on the prevention of air pollution, their names will be on that list. Every time we drive to school, use our heater or air condition, clean our windows, or even style our hair, we make choices that affect air pollution. These steps, as well as many others, are things we can all do to help reduce air pollution. Conserve energy, use energy efficient like light bulbs and appliances, participate in your local utilities' energy conservation programs, limit driving by carpooling, combine errands for fewer trips, keep your automobile well-tuned and maintained, avoid excess idling of your automobile, run dishwashers and close washers only when full, and choose environmentally friendly cleansers. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Mr. Aguilar?
Matthew Arnold, followed by Noah Reiner.
Hello, my name is Matthew Arnold. I'm 17 years old. My problem is not as big as what air pollution was. So my problem that I found in Eastvale is I was driving by Harada Park. I noticed that there was kids jaywalking, and I was wondering why don't they just use the crosswalk? But the crosswalk was placed at the end of the street near Scholar Way. So it was inconvenient, I guess you could say, for them to get to. So what I suggest is that there be a crosswalk which would be more near the park, so it would be better access to get to the fields and quicker, which would be near Hollins, and it wouldn't be as much as a hazard for drivers and for the kids. And thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Would you mind leaving that note as to the streets with city staff? Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. We had another comment?
Yes, our last card is Noah Rayner.
Good evening. My name is Noah Resner, and I would like to comment on business infrastructure in the city of Eastvale. So, I noticed there's a lot of new homes being built here in Eastvale, and I believe that the city needs to attract more business infrastructure or high-paying jobs, because I believe it's important that people, the residents here, are able to both work and live here. And other news, I would also like to thank you guys on approving the opening of Miguel's Jr. here in Eastvale. My dad is actually the director of marketing. I believe he met you.
Yeah. It was
Steve Resner. Yeah, on his behalf, I'd like to thank you guys.
No, thank you. We're excited about Miguel Jr.'s also. So.
It was a nice, I met him on Saturday, it was very nice.
Mr. Rigby.
I have a question for you. What would you recommend to the city to help to attract high-paying jobs? Uh-oh. Think about it. Think about it, and if you have anything, then come back to us at maybe another meeting.
Okay.
All right?
Thanks.
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for the comments. Appreciate it.
And just so everybody knows here, if you're looking for a job, Amazon is hiring and they're staffing up pretty significantly right now. So,
sure.
And they pay minimum. Their minimum starting is now $15. So there's a lot of good opportunities at Amazon right now.
Excellent. Thank you. So that concludes our public comment at this point in time. Anybody else? You have to fill out a card. Okay, seeing none, we are moving on. I have a sheet here. Okay, we are on to item number 7, and that is our consent calendar. Those are items 7.1 through 7.11. All matters on the consent calendar are considered routine and are to be approved with one motion unless a council member, staff member, or a member of the public requests a separate action on a specific item. Mr. Aguilar, have we had any such requests?
We've had no requests.
Gentlemen? No? Anybody? Okay, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion.
So move the consent calendar.
Okay, we have a first and we have a second. Mr. Aguilar, roll call, please.
Councilmember Platt?
Yes.
Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Councilmember Tassari?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby?
Aye.
Mayor Lormore?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on to item number 8. And we have that was public hearings, and we have no public hearings tonight. So jumping ahead, item number 9, city council business, and those are items 9.1 through 9.5. This will probably take longer than 7 and 8. Item 9.1. Regulation and licensing of wireless telecommunications facilities in the public right-of-way. And that is going to be submitted by our city attorney, Erica Vega. Ms. Vega.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. In this item tonight, we have two separate but related items that are before you for consideration. The first is an ordinance establishing permitting requirements for wireless telecommunications in the public right-of-way, and the second is a form municipal facilities license agreement that would allow the wireless telecommunication facilities to be located on city-owned streetlights and other vertical infrastructure in the public right-of-way. So just as a brief background, telephone corporations have franchise rights under state law, and cities can only place reasonable time, place, and manner regulations on their use of the public right-of-way. With the boom in cellular service, they are increasingly looking to use the right-of-way to install facilities. Because it's still a fairly new industry and a new technology, cities vary quite widely in what they consider to be reasonable regulations. So you can see cities that have quite onerous permitting requirements to cities that allow them through a simple encroachment permit. So I worked collaboratively with council and staff with several wireless providers in crafting something that meets the city's goals and that also works for the wireless providers to hopefully get these facilities in the city. And the city's goal, as were communicated to me at least, were that we want to encourage small cells in the public right-of-way because there's issues with signal strength and coverage in certain locations throughout the city, and then also because it helps increase speed, and everyone's using their data nowadays, and so the demand for speed is only going up. We want to also encourage carriers to use existing poles in the right-of-way, not building new poles in the right-of-way, and minimizing the aesthetic impacts to the extent feasible. And then also utilizing this as a revenue generator for the city on the streetlights. So with those goals in mind, the ordinance I drafted working with the wireless providers establishes 3 separate permit requirements, 2 for the small cell facilities. One is a streamlined one for facilities that would go on an existing pole and that meet an existing pre-approved design, and then a slightly less streamlined but still rather quick process for other small cell facilities. And then technically, because we can't completely prohibit a large facility from the public right-of-way, we did establish a requirement that if they were to propose a large tower in the public right-of-way, it would be treated just like any other large tower. I've been told that's never going to happen. I mean, the small cells is the future for now at least, but it had to be there. So that's to answer that question, why we didn't just straight prohibit it, which is what I was initially looking towards doing. But in discussion with the wireless providers, we determined that a traditional planning use permit worked there. So just as a little bit more background, what is a small cell? There's no one standard definition because it's based on size, but based off of various samples I found, including samples from federal regulations, a small cell in Eastvale would be a facility where the antenna is no more than 6 cubic feet. And then any associated equipment would be no more than 21 cubic feet in volume. So that kind of gives you the rough parameters of the size. The related equipment could be slightly larger, but only if they are servicing at least 3 separate cell providers. So you would allow a little bit extra cabinet space for facilities that would serve, say, Verizon, AT&T, and I don't know, Boost Mobile or some other provider. So the ordinance also lists numerous location, installation, and maintenance standards to make sure that the installations are compatible with other public uses of the right-of-way, screening of any ground-mounted equipment for aesthetic purposes, and encouraging them to be placed underground when feasible to really minimize the impact on the pedestrian use of the sidewalks in the public right-of-way. Most of the time, when a small cell gets installed on a existing pole, they actually have to take the pole down and rebuild it because it's not strong enough to support the weight of the equipment. So we would require them to match the aesthetics of the existing pole. So say it's a street light, they can't put up some other random pole. It has to match the aesthetics of all the other street lights and the street light that's replacing it. And then also limits on how tall the new poles can be. And then we also are establishing an initial deposit amount for permits of $1,000 for the streamlined permit and $2,500 for the standard permit, which can be changed in the future by resolution of the City Council. The biggest caveat to that is any proposed small cell that would be located on a city facility, such as your streetlights, would not be subject to permitting requirements. We would address those through the licensing process. So that takes me to the second thing in your packet, which is the Form Municipal Facilities License Agreement. So this is what we would use to establish relationships with, say, Verizon or AT&T to allow them to install facilities on city infrastructure. Notably, these are master agreements, so they don't executing the agreement doesn't actually authorize the installation of any particular small cell in any given location. That's done through a streamlined, it's called site authorization process in the agreement, where then the city would review the request at the location, the aesthetics of it, and make a determination as to whether it's something the city's willing to allow on its infrastructure. So the basic terms, they're rather long-term agreements, and that's normal. So this calls for a 10-year initial term plus 4 5-year extensions, which can be opted out of by either party. So guaranteed 10-year term. And then we would have an annual poll fee that would go up every year, but we are asking that you let the city manager and myself determine what those poll fees should be at the time the agreement is executed based off of market conditions versus setting it now sort of arbitrarily based off of what conditions are today, and then things change in the future and you could be getting more money or unfortunately less money. You may have heard the FCC is trying to limit the amount of fees that the cities can charge. So we would like some flexibility there to be able to modify the agreement as needed based off of regulatory changes and based off of market conditions as well. But so long as what's being executed substantially conforms to what you're approving this evening, that we would have the authority to go ahead and get those executed. So with that, try to keep it short and sweet. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Excellent. We'll start with Councilmember Tesseri.
Just clarification, that the difference between the two, using existing city infrastructure, that process doesn't change any of the requirements, it just changes the actual process.
Correct. So instead of duplicating and essentially requiring them to go through a site license authorization process under the master license agreement and then duplicate that again with a permit, it just seemed a little bit unnecessary. So since they essentially are achieving the same things, that was actually a request that was brought up by Verizon, and after thinking about it a bit, we decided that, yeah, it seemed to make sense. There's no need to duplicate the same thing.
Right. One other question, is there some type of mechanism we're using other than just suggesting to get companies to underground?
Well, it's always based off of the site and what's reasonable and feasible there. In some locations, undergrounding won't be feasible because there's existing things already underground that are going to prevent it from working. So, but where there is space, and say especially if there's no nearby landscaping to shield, and the aesthetic impact of a cabinet would be much greater, I think in that situation we would be able to say, no, we're not going to allow you to install in this location unless you underground.
Just
versus
establish a condition.
right. And so it can be determined case by case. But obviously, for aesthetic purposes, undergrounding is the way to go.
Thank you.
Mr. Plott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Erica, for sharing that with us. Very, very helpful, very insightful presentation. I just have one question. I know when a provider comes in, it could be a multiple streetlights that are going to, and licenses that they're going to purchase. My question is more monetary as far as what do you see right now? And I know it's relative, it can change, but what is the fair market value right now, maybe per pole? What does that look like as far as revenue?
So the range right now is actually really broad. For example, the city of Anaheim only charges just shy of $100 per pole, but that is not necessarily reflective of market conditions. That's because they really wanted to incentivize locating these facilities on existing poles. We're seeing $700 to $1,500 in a lot of cities per pole. And then, Long Beach, I think, is like several thousand per pole. So there is a pretty good size range. In this vicinity, I think 700 to, say, about 1,800 is probably a good sort of range of what market is right now.
And that is recurringly as?
Annual per pole. Annual per pole.
Thank you.
Mr. Rush?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Trying to do this here. Yeah, I kind of had the same question that Councilmember Tessari did, but I just wanted to still clarify. So I understand the exemption on existing facilities, but then there's this section here that seems to be slightly in conflict with that. So we have the 12.12.040 streamlined small wireless telecommunications facility permits. We exempt them on existing city-owned infrastructure. I get that. But then when we come down to subsection D, we're still saying a small wireless telecom facility is proposed to be co-located on an existing pole or vertical structure requiring a permit. So can
that-
you reconcile those?
The exemption in B is universal, so instead of having to restate the exemption throughout the section, it's sort of all small cells on existing poles are only subject to the entire contents of that section if they're not on a city pole. That's the intent. If it's unclear, we can certainly make that edit, and is a part of what comes back for second reading.
Okay, yeah, if I'm a developer, I'm seeing, well, I'm exempt if I'm on a city piece of infrastructure, but then I have to go through this permit. I don't know if it's confusing anywhere else. In respect to the fees, I suggest, when we figure this out, that rather than just kind of leave it out there in the ether, we establish some type of implementing resolution when it's appropriate. That might give us the flexibility. I definitely don't want to codify these fees in ordinance because they're, going to be ever changing as this market develops. But I think we need some guide to guide future city councils, future staff, on what the fees are. And then, because there is such a variance, is there a thought that the licensing fee will be, I guess, a range for a piece of city infrastructure, but then it'll be a different range if it's undergrounded? I don't know if we've gotten down to that granular level of kind of differentiating between, the level of impact that it's going to have on the city. I think sticking something on a pole is relatively easy, but if we're having, you said 21 cubic feet, I mean, that's not small in my mind. It's not a 75-foot monopine, but I mean, what is that? I can't do math in my head. 7 by 7 or something like that.
It was
So, I mean, that's-
larger than I thought as well when I.
Well,
saw the
yeah,
numbers.
and when the legislation was going through, I forget what the number was, at the state level, we had the league kind of right there, and I think the mayor went to a press conference, and I mean, they were showing, it was obviously somewhat biased, but showing pictures of like refrigerator-size equipment cabinets, conveniently right outside of a person's home. So, yeah, the feds are trying to stick their nose into this as much as they can, which goes into my third question. If that legislation passes and is not sued and all that, notwithstanding our current ordinance for private facilities or private property, what is that going to do to our timeframes? Is that going to mess up our standard non-streamlined permit timeframes? Or are we going to then have to accelerate those based upon the current rules that are in draft form?
Okay, so let me address the fee question first. So the codified portion of the ordinance includes a provision that says the application fees can be set by resolution of the city council. And then in a separate non-codified section of the ordinance, we say that the initial fees will be $1,000 and $2,500, and they're deposit-based just like every other city fee. And then those can be changed by resolution of the city council. So we're establishing it now in this ordinance, essentially just so we didn't have to have another separate document as well on top of it, but we already have the provision built in that they're changeable by resolution, so we're not going through an ordinance amendment process every time.
But that fee is for the processing, not the licensing.
Yes, correct. And so then the licensing fees, I have seen in several cities that have negotiated variable licensing fees, where essentially it's one amount if you're going to do it all above ground, and to incentivize a below ground or smaller facilities, they'll give a discount on that fee. And so that's something that we can do as a part of the negotiation process, depending on the city's priorities and what's being proposed. Also, one thing I forgot to highlight is the ordinance calls for a pre-approved design process where it's anticipated that we'll be bringing back suggested designs from the wireless providers that the city council will then view and say, we like whichever ones you like, and there'll be no cap. If you like them all, you can pre-approve them all. If you don't like one, that can be the only one. If you only like one, that's the only one you can approve. So you'll have a lot of discretion there, and so that gives them the guidance up front to know that if we match this design that the city likes, we can then go and get this streamlined permit. And then we're also more likely to get our small cells to be approved if we're looking to have them done on a city pole through the license agreement. So that's the goal there, to get the designs approved up front. We didn't want to bring it tonight because I already got a lot going on. So we figured let's get through this hurdle and then we'll tackle step 2, which is getting the design pre-approval.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rigby?
Thank you. Just regarding the equipment, is there any setbacks that they have to abide by for those on location of that?
On the technical equipment, I'm not sure if they have rules that they have to abide by from the CPUC. The CPUC does have rules that apply to these equipment, and as well as the federal government with, I know they have radio frequency emissions, but if you mean like setbacks from the edge of the right-of-way or something like that, like say the curb line, we haven't put those in the ordinance, but that would be something that we look at through the findings and making sure that it meets the standard built in, which is that it doesn't interfere with other uses of the public right-of-way, whether that's pedestrian or motor vehicle use and blocking sight lines or anything like that.
Okay, yeah, that's more of what I was thinking along that line. I'd like to see something like that put into it, that that we do have some sort of, especially regarding safety setbacks.
All right, that being said, I would like to open this to public comments. Mr. Aguilar, have we received any public comment cards on this item?
Yes, we received one public comment card from Sharon Mill.
Excellent. Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Sharon Mile, and I'm here on behalf of Verizon Wireless. Verizon wanted to thank the city staff, and especially for Erica Vega, for being kind of incentive and understanding the benefits of wireless technology, and for taking the time to listen to the carriers, to do the right thing for the city, to draft the MLA agreement as well as the revised ordinance. So we very much appreciate the effort and again, the desire to want to advance the city to technology advancement, that 5G is coming along and we want to be able to take the city there. And so we very much, again, appreciate and thank you for recognizing the importance and the benefits of wireless. It's all around us. We all utilize it. We all want to use all the apps. We want to do all the right things, but we need a strong network to do that. So again, we very much appreciate staff time, Erica's time to working with Verizon. And we look forward to a long-term relationship. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you for waiting out through this meeting to share those comments. I know it's warm, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate the partnership. Want to bring it, and also, do we have any other comments on this item? Yes, sir.
Good evening, City Council, city staff, members of the public. I understand that people sometimes miss out on maybe shows or whatever because their signal isn't good. But I would before voting on this item, I would consider that. I would consider that you guys look into the health risks of 5G, or as they like to call it, small cells. The 5G technology was originally developed as a military weapon. So, it's just something to consider. Maybe other alternatives, such as fiber optic cables, maybe. I don't know. But, excuse me. I didn't have a script or anything, but... Yeah, I mean, these these towers are going to be really close to, people's bedrooms and stuff, and those, 5G millimeter waves, are going to be very close, to people's bedrooms and stuff like that. So, that's something else that you guys might want to consider before voting on this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Okay, any other comments at this time? If you could please fill out one of those blue cards. Okay, thank you. Do we have any other comments on this? Okay, seeing none, bring it back up to the dais. Do we have any further discussion on this? We had a couple things that were discussed with Erica. You got that for the second reading, Erica? You got those?
Yeah, so the clarification regarding the exemption I've got, but for the setbacks from the curb line, if we're going to have a specific numerical setback, I'd need to know what that's going to be. Otherwise, we could draft it as just making a standard, ensuring that there's no blocking of sight lines, and you just keep it a little bit higher level.
Well, there really isn't an existing setback.
Okay, fair point. There is no existing setback at this point in time.
Correct. In the draft, we don't have a set standard, like a number of feet back from the curb. But we do have provisions that require the use to not interfere with other public uses of the right of way, which would include vehicle travel and sightlines.
I mean, your zoning setbacks are typically from the property line, which doesn't include the right-of-way, so, and it was mentioned safety setbacks, how they do safety setbacks for like windmills is like 1.5 or twice the height, so if it falls, it's not gonna fall on someone, but I don't think that's feasible here.
I was thinking this was more for the ground equipment, because obviously if it's gonna be on an existing pole, it's where the pole's gonna be for the antenna. But if, in terms of ground equipment and the issue with it possibly interfering with sight lines, then we could add something.
I was thinking more of the ground equipment because two concerns that come up with that. One is the sight line. You have it on a corner or something like that. But the other one is you see some of these that get real close to the line of the sidewalk edge. And even if it's close to there, I have a 5-year-old that rides his bike, and when he rides his bike close to the edge, he hits things with his handlebars that are sticking, that are not real close, or that are real close. So I just think safety-wise, we need to make sure that that's taken into consideration, that there's got to be some sort of setback from the edge of the curb, and that there can't be anything to interfere with line of sight. Because you get these close to a corner, then you have the issues on the corner of line of sight. So that's kind of what my question was when I brought it up.
Well, would it be the case where compliance with ADA might take care of a lot of these issues? I'm assuming that there can't be, we don't want to get ourselves into any ADA issues here.
Right.
With equipment.
I don't know all of the nitty gritty ADA standards off the top of my head, unfortunately, but.
I want to give direction, but at the same time, I don't know if we have the technical expertise to give direction on this issue from the dais.
That's for you to decide whether you have the technical know-how. Brandon has a question.
Yeah, that's true. Mr. Platt?
But this still would have to come for an approval of the council, right? So it would still be on our approval, so if we didn't like a person, or no?
No, so these would be on the permits, they would be approved by the Director of Public Works, and these site license authorizations under the master license agreement would be through the city manager, obviously in consultation with Director of Public Works.
We don't see cell towers now unless they're appealed.
Right.
So.
But for the second reading of this ordinance,
Right, for the second reading, it comes back, but we can't make substantive changes at the second reading. It has to be done as a part of the first reading. So the option is postpone the first reading, and then I can bring back a revised version and you can redo your first reading.
Do we have concerns on timing right now?
Well, we're still in the true-up process on the streetlights, and I don't know that we have a hard date on when that's going to be done, but it should be sooner rather than later. So we're looking at having actual, ownership of the lights probably within the next month or so. So delaying this to doing a new first reading at your November meeting, second reading at the December meeting. It would go into effect in January for the ordinance, but the master license agreement just gets approved whenever it gets approved, and we can start executing those agreements immediately. So I'm not seeing a huge timing issue on it in relation to your streetlight acquisition, but.
Motion table.
I'm hearing discussion about tabling.
Yeah.
Mr. Tesseri, Mr. Rush?
I'm fine. I mean, if we feel like we need more clarification, let's do it now rather than fix it later.
Just as one point of clarification, are you looking to build those specifics into both the ordinance and the master license agreement? Because you could always move forward on the master license agreement this evening, and we can just bring back the ordinance in November.
I think they're more appropriate for the ordinance, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, if ADA, we're gonna make sure that these are ADA compliant, so that's just a given. So,
Well, an ADA complaint, I don't know that would cover this, because ADA is more concerned about overall width. I'm more concerned about beyond that width.
The handlebars.
Exactly.
but
My son's just learning to ride a bike. Come on.
I'm with you.
Okay. So we can just, that can just be a matter of design rather than needing to be put into the ordinance that we need to watch out for kids' handlebars. So, I mean, we can just make that a matter of practice, if you would like.
It's just a matter
I'd
of
feel more comfortable if it's in the ordinance, that it's not just a matter of practice, but that it's something that's set, that this is what we're doing, because then we have it consistent across the whole board rather than just.
Right. Our goal isn't to put any new objects in the way of anybody using our sidewalks. So we would put it behind the pole or put it behind the sidewalk or something like that, and not in the path of somebody riding their bikes on the sidewalk, or where your pedals would be on the sidewalk or anything like that, or your handlebars. So,
You know, so on this note, I have become intimately aware of distances from the sidewalk given our sign ordinance and the election going on right now. That being said, the reason I bring it up is that we have, it does not seem that there is a standard. If you look at different items and their distance from the edge of the sidewalk, sometimes they're right on the edge. Sometimes they are 1.5 feet. Sometimes they're 2 feet. It's all over the map. And this was done before us becoming a city, I am sure, with the county. That being said, it would be good to have some clarification as to distances. But that being said, do we have consensus at this time to table the item? Is that what I was hearing?
Would we motion for?
I mean, is the only issue that issue, or what's the other issue that you? I mean, because we could just put something in to say.
Why don't I try this motion?
Sure.
That we would. It needs to be a foot away from behind the sidewalk or something like that, and put. I mean, if that's a desire.
I mean, if we want to move forward with it right now, then I would say that we do at least 2 feet, because that matches our sign ordinance. But I don't know that we're in a position to move forward with that. I think.
Okay, we can bring it back.
I just don't know that in every location in the city you would have that kind of width. And so it could end up precluding small cells in huge parts of your city, and we just haven't investigated that, so we don't really know the answer to that question.
On that note, then we are looking for the correct verbiage. We are tabling, or we're, what are we doing?
You're just, directing
Continuing?
staff to modify and bring it back on November 14th.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. We are directing, exactly. Done. Okay, moving on.
We need a motion.
Sorry.
Do we need a motion on that?
Yes, and
Okay.
just to clarify, is that just for the ordinance? And are you gonna move on the master license
Yeah,
agreement this evening?
Mr. Platt.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the master agreement, but table the ordinance section of it till the November 14th meeting. Would that be a good enough motion?
That's a good motion.
Okay.
Second. Okay. First, second, Mr. Aguilar.
Councilmember Plott,
Yes.
Councilmember Rush, Councilmember Tessari, Mayor Pro Tem Rigby, Mayor Lormore.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on to item 9.2, and that's an ordinance authorizing implementation of a community choice aggregation program and First Amendment to the related joint powers agreement. This is item 9.2. Mr. Jones. Thank you.
If we can just thank Verizon for their partnership in helping develop that, we appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
So working with the business community. So thank you, and thank you to Erica for reaching out and coordinating all that effort. So
Yeah, appreciate that.
9.2 is forming, per the request of the chamber and the council members, creating, wait, which one are we on?
You're on the CCA.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. It's warm. The CCA, this is just, tonight, we have to authorize implementation of the Community Choice Aggregation Program and First Amendment of the Related Joint Powers Agreement. It's just a requirement of the CCA that we do this to continue in the process, and so we have to have it on the books before I think it's the end of the year. And so we just thought we'd bring it on here. It's a draft, or it's a master document that everybody that's part of the JPA for the CCA is executing, and the verbiage is the same for everybody. So with that, I'll let you guys discuss.
Excellent. Mr. Rigby, I know that you sit on that board. Do you have any insights, comments?
Just for clarification, this is not us agreeing to be a part of this. This is just an ordinance allowing us to be a part of it. So this isn't us making a commitment that yes, we're definitely going to do this. We will bring this forward, and we'll have an option to be able to decide if we're going to go forward.
Excellent. Appreciate the clarification, Mr. Platt.
I have a quick question for Mayor Pro Tem Rigby. When is the, and thank you, by the way, for putting all the work together and representing Eastville and being involved in this. When is the time frame where there has to be a commitment?
So that main time frame is before power is purchased, and power will be purchased towards the mid to latter part of 2019. So before then, we do have the option of pulling out, and before then, we can pull out anytime. So kind of on a monthly basis, we actually talked about that today in our meeting, kind of on a monthly basis, the executive team is taking a pulse as to where we're at, and seeing if it is going forward. As of right now, everything is going forward. But we have the option to pull out before power is purchased. Once power is purchased, then it's kind of on an annual process that we are locked in for the time that power was purchased for, or else we may have to pay an exit fee if we decide to leave.
Mr. Rush, do you have any comments, questions? Okay. That being said, do we have any public comments on this item?
We've had no requests.
Anybody want to speak on this? Okay. Seeing none, back up here for discussion. Any further discussion? If not, okay, I have a first and a second. Mr. Aguilar.
Councilmember Platt?
Yes.
Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Councilmember Tesari?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby?
Aye.
Mayor Lorimore?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to item 9.3, and that's the Mayor's Business Success Roundtable Ad Hoc Committee. Mr. Jones, I think you were trying to talk about that
This is the
earlier.
Back to the Future. I'm
Right?
Deja vu, 5 minutes earlier. I was trying to speed the council meeting along. This is a request from Harry at the Chamber of Commerce, as well as Councilmember Brandon Plott. We're collaborating and identifying ways to create an environment in which businesses can meet with the city council and the chamber and the city hall staff, and we can create an ad hoc roundtable. And so our goal is to at least have quarterly meetings, but if we could have monthly meetings where we invite the businesses from the community and hear their opportunities, issues, concerns, constraints, perceived or real, and help them thrive in the city of Eastville, whether they're existing businesses or projected or inquiring businesses, really helping address any issues and helping businesses grow in this community. So I'll defer it to Brandon, but it would consist of the position of mayor and one other council member, the chamber president and one other chamber board member, and the city manager and or all of their designees. And so then bring in businesses and visit with them and have an open forum conversation. So, Brandon, would you like to talk a little bit more about that?
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, to make it short and sweet, it's, you know, we thrive on our, well, we kind of promote Eastvale as a city that is business friendly. And I think one thing, and along with Harry, is to take kind of one step further, is to create a committee where you have representation from the City of Commerce, or from the City of Commerce, sorry, the Chamber of Commerce, and from our mayor, city council member, and from our city staff and business owners in the city of Eastvale. And the idea is to create a roundtable discussion to promote what things we can do to help incentivize businesses in the city of Eastvale. If there's any issues or concerns that they're addressing that may be hurting their business, how can we address that? And it's just good to have that interaction with our businesses more than what we're currently doing, and just to have that voice, so they can have a voice and feel like they have that time where they don't just have to come to a city council meeting, they don't have to go to a chamber, where they can actually have an interaction of all the meetings of the minds, and just to have that that productive meeting to get things accomplished that would be more fruitful for them to do business in the city of Eastvale. I also think it's another point just to attract businesses, attract restaurants into the city, so that we have something like this that we promote and that we give our business partners a voice. So to simplify, that is it. I'll take any questions if there are any.
Love it. At this time, though, I want to turn to the public if there are any comments.
We've had no requests.
Okay, thank you. No comments? Don't see any? Okay, back up here to the dais. Any further discussion, questions? I think it's a fantastic idea, and I'm just bummed that it's going to be for such a short time for me, because I'm going to be handing off the mayor spot soon. Okay, good idea. Thank you for bringing it forward. Looking for a motion.
So move. Second.
Okay, we have a second. Mr. Aguilar.
Councilmember Plott?
Yes.
Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Councilmember Tesari?
Yes, but just clarification, it's going to be Councilman Plott serving on that with the mayor?
Why don't we finish with this motion to establish, and then we can do a second motion to appoint the supervisor of the voting.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby?
Aye.
Mayor Longmore?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Excellent. Okay, and discussion on appointments?
I nominate Councilman Plott.
Well, by any means, it doesn't have to be me. I'm not saying that, but I would love to, if anything.
I second that
Well,
motion.
this has the mayor and a council member.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So would the nomination be the mayor and the council member?
I only heard him do it for Plott.
Well, you're already.
There's the position of the mayor, whoever's in that position,
Mayor.
and then you need to appoint one other council member.
Okay, so it's only appointing the one.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
The mayor is automatically appointed.
Okay, we have the clarification. Do we need a motion? We have a motion second. Mr. Aguilar, roll call, please.
Councilmember Plott?
Yes.
Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Councilmember Tesari?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby?
Aye.
Mayor Longmore?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good idea. Moving on to item 9.4, and that's the authorization for infrastructure design work related to future civic center. Mr. Bradshaw.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council, City Council. So you've got the clicker up there. It only have like one slide, so it's really simple. Just a little bit of background. This has to do with the Civic Center and also the Palopolis property. There's a exchange agreement with Lewis Land Development that lays out a number of requirements and who's responsible for what. The city's desirable to acquire the future Civic Center parcel area. That's approximately 7 acres, and there's an exchange for the parcel that's I don't remember the name of it. That parcel up by Riverboat Drive and Hamner Avenue is basically just a little over Alice Corner, 1.4 acres. As far as this exchange agreement, there's a number of conditions that were laid out. The city's agreed to do the design work for the storm drains, all the storm drains and laterals, and also the roadway improvements, street lights, and streetlights as far as dry utilities go, and also to work out the coordination with Edison for relocation of the high voltage power poles. Lewis Company, Land Development Company, they've currently been using Webb and Associates out of Riverside to do their design work as far as the mapping goes and the layouts and so forth. And we thought it would help expedite the project if we were to use the same company. We asked for proposals. There's actually two elements to this agreement. One element has to do with the work in the proposed Fleischman right-of-way, which is the road work and that large lateral that you see in the right-of-way, and street lights. There's that design work. That design work costs approximately $100,000. The other portion has to do with the extension of the storm drain itself, and they call it the master drain line, MDL line, that goes up almost to Riverboat. It's a little over 1,000 feet long. We asked for proposals from Webb and Associates for that lateral, for the storm drain line. That was $113,000. The total of both proposals is $213,000. We don't have to award to Webb and Associates. We just feel like it would help move the project along, and this is assuming that we come to the conclusion with this exchange agreement and everything's satisfactory. So a recommendation is to approve professional services agreement with Webb and Associates for $213,000 and authorize the city manager to execute the documents. We've looked at those proposals closely, and they're within the guidelines as far as what these types of things should cost. Webb and Associates has a lot of experience in the city of Eastvale. They have a lot of the record documents. They've already done a lot of the work, so it just seems to make sense to use somebody with local knowledge, and we'd be glad to answer questions.
Excellent, thank you for that presentation. Do we have any questions at this time? Yeah, Mr. Rush?
Thank you, Craig. I don't disagree with anything you said, but I'm still a little bit concerned that this is effectively a sole source contract.
Right.
It does make sense, I think, to use the same firm. You can get issues if you use two different firms, but I'm concerned with kind of setting that precedent. So I don't know what the rest of the council's opinion on that matter is. It's not really something we've done in the past. So I was kind of throwing that out there if there's any comments or concerns.
It's really being done for efficiency and effectiveness. We're in an agreement with the Lewis Corporation to do the project. They're doing parts of the engineering design. We're doing parts of the engineering design. It makes sense to have one engineering firm do all of the design together for efficiency and effectiveness and deliver it. We're trying to set this up so that we have the contract ready to go. What we are going to do is get approval from you, hopefully tonight, so that when Lewis gives the authorization to Webb to do their portion, we can also give Webb to do our portion, and we don't have to delay it by a few weeks to come back to another council meeting at that time. So we're just trying to get out in front of this project effort and do our commitment to deliver this capital infrastructure for this project where our future civic center is planned to go.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, I don't disagree with any of that. I don't know how much more it would cost, but I'm still a bit concerned with, any concerns on the public's perspective or the community.
Sure.
So.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Tesseri?
I have the same concerns as Councilman Rush, but I actually would prefer to do this also, but what kind of legal exposure do we have?
To do it this way?
Yes.
Well, because this is professional services under your code, professional services aren't subject to any formal process that needs to be followed. You can sole source, you can do an RFP, which I think is the normal practice to do an RFP or an RFQ, but there's nothing in your code that says you have to do that. I think that's just been standard practice.
Okay. That's good.
Oh, that is good. Do we have any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the funds, where are the funds coming from for this?
The storm drain project, that's funds that we get from Zone 2 through the county. So those funds are already available. That's what will be used to also build that storm drain, the storm drain that goes up Hamner Avenue. The other funds, a portion for the lateral on Civic Center and the street improvement plans and so forth, that comes from Civic Center funds.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I did want to also weigh in. I agree with much of the sentiment up here. I think we should do this. Is there serious problems with timing if we do not move forward tonight and ask for an RFP or?
Pretty standard is about a 3-month turnaround to do an RFP.
3 months.
Then there's a question of workload with, you need to find someone that has availability to do the work.
So we would need to come back to you at another council meeting, ask for permission to go out for an RFP. Then we would go out for the RFP, and it'd probably be at least 3-4 months and by that time we could be behind schedule in delivering our end of the bargain or the deal with Lewis Corporation. So that's why we're just trying to get this, for efficiency purposes, moving forward.
Okay. Efficiency is a good thing. We are covered in terms of liability from
Correct.
your
And
understanding?
that is because this is a professional services agreement.
Yeah.
If this involved any construction at all, it wouldn't be the case.
Okay.
Professional services are awarded based off of the competency of the contractor, not necessarily based off of a bid price.
Okay. That being said, I would like to see in the future professional services also come back and look at that as to how we move forward down the line. I don't know. I think that we should be, it's about competition, putting it out there and seeing who is most competitive. And of course, as we move forward, not for this, but down the line.
I think
not to.
Yes, sir.
So for professional services agreements, we don't always go with the lowest bidder because the lowest bidder might not be the most competent person to perform the professional services, and so sometimes it is in the best judgment of staff not to go through an RFP process, and we would go through like an RFQ process to determine the qualifications, but from my professional engineering experience, because I am also a professional engineer, the fees that are associated with this are pretty in alignment with what we're asking for them to do. So any cost efficiencies, it'd be very minimal for what we're asking. This is a pretty competitive bid proposal for what we're asking to do, and with the added advantage that they're doing all the other work for the Lewis Corporation, so that they can deliver both packages as a seamless package to a contractor to deliver all the project.
Okay. Well, I'm not saying this is not reasonable. I believe it is, and with your background, I appreciate that input. Just moving forward, I would like to see us set up something, or at least discuss it, something related to RFPs, RFQs, related to professional services down the line, not for this item.
Yeah, it's probably worthwhile having a discussion, but that's part of the Mini Brooks Act. It requires you to award to the most qualified.
Yeah.
And price really shouldn't come into effect until you determine who the most qualified is.
Okay. No, that's great. I'd just like to see that brought back down the line. Do we have any further discussion on this item?
Yeah, I just, the discussion made me think of something. So, if this is approved, Lewis will do work for us, will do work for Webb will do work for Lewis and us on how are we bidding the public works portion of it? Is the scope that Lewis has contracted with Webb to do involving any of the public works aspects of it, or is that all being designed and managed by the city? I'm curious, once this is all done, what's the bid gonna look like? Is it gonna be bid, or is it just gonna be designed and Lewis? That's a joke question?
Unfortunately, that's a joke question.
Okay.
That's I just turned it off when I meant to turn it on. Yeah, Joe is the one who's been taking the lead on those discussions with Lewis. And we will be formalizing it, though, in a joint improvement agreement that we're just getting started on with Council for Lewis.
So the work that Lewis has contracted Webb to do does involve improvements within the public right of way?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I'm looking for a motion. Huh? Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Again, it's been a longer meeting than usual. Okay. Do we have any public comments on this?
We've had no requests.
Would anybody like to speak on this? Okay. Hearing none, back up here for discussion.
Approval.
Okay.
Second.
We have a first and we have a second. Mr. Aguilar?
Councilmember Platt?
Yes.
Councilmember Rush?
No.
Councilmember Tassari?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby?
Yes.
Mayor Lormore?
No.
Motion passes 3-2.
Okay, moving forward, thank you all, and I would really like to see something on this in the future related to the process. Okay, moving on to item 9.5, and that is the authorization of planning, engineering, and environmental work for Limonite Avenue, west of Archibald Avenue, and bridge over the Cucamonga Creek Channel. Mr. Bradshaw.
Yes. Just recently, Councilmember Adam Rush, WRCOG, and city staff met to discuss the feasibility of completing or expediting the Limonite Avenue gap closure, which includes planning, engineering, and environmental work. This is a layout that we received from the county that shows a proposed layout. The first two parcels, upper left-hand corner, that's the portion that's been completed by First Industrial. Then you've got a gap that's the Rodriguez property, and then you have the Cucamonga Creek Channel that you see there kind of going up through the middle, and then you have it goes through the corner of the campus property and continues on up and goes through the Dite property and ties into Limonite. It's really an uncompleted portion. The biggest problem is the bridge over Cucamonga Creek. It's approximately 160 feet long, and it's probably going to be at least an 18-month process to go through this and determine. To design and get it shelf ready. Anyways, determined that there's $650,000 of TUMP funds that we could use, and those funds would be allocated through WRCOG. But this was also added in RCTC to the Transportation Improvement Plan, so we can expend the monies. I include this aerial. At least it shows you a little bit of the lay of the land out there. On the left, you have First Industrial, and the Rodriguez property, and you see the creek, and then the Dite property. They kind of give you a feel for what's going on out there. This is really an important connection, one of the important east-west connections that the city's talked about for some time. It's proposed that you authorize a solicitation of an RFP to do this design work. The bridge is estimated at a cost of approximately $5 million, and the roadway work around $3 or $4 million. As far as total completion costs, the bridge design we're expecting with the RFP, it's going to be approximately 6%, 7% of costs. So we're probably looking at $300,000 or $400,000 minimum for the bridge design. But there's quite a process to go through. But we'd like to go ahead and we recommend authorization of the expenditure of these funds. But we'll go out. Recommend we go out with an RFP first, and when we would return and with a request for proposal to solicit.
Excellent.
And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Do we have any, yes, Mr. Rush?
Thank you. Yeah, this is obviously going to be a huge win for us to get this done. A couple of questions on the process itself. And I think I would also motion that we rename the creek to something else, because it's definitely not a creek. I think Ike knows that.
It's a channel, yeah.
Channel. I'm assuming there's going to be an Army Corps permit necessary for that bridge?
Correct.
Okay. with what we're doing now, as we're doing the PSNE, what's going to be the extent of the environmental work that we're asking the potential firm or firms to take on at this point in time? Are they gonna include the regulatory permitting of that, or are we just doing like the baseline documents, and then are we gonna do that on our end? Is that gonna be a county project? Because that can be also a very
That's a
extensive
long process.
Yeah.
I see that it needs to really go in two separate paths. You gotta have the environmental work going on at the same time as the design work, because there's such a long time period.
Okay.
But yeah, the permitting is a long process.
Who did the design for the I-15 Limonite?
That was Dulcan Engineering.
Okay, can we just sole source them? I'm kidding. No, but in all seriousness, how are we gonna advertise this? Because this is, I want to make sure we cast a wide net here.
We've been discussing this internally. It may make sense to solicit the county to oversee this process, as they're much more familiar with dealing bridges and so forth.
Okay.
That's our thought process right now.
Let's get it going. Thank you.
Any further comments, discussion on this? Okay, do we have any comments from the public on this?
We've had no requests.
Okay. Anybody?
I would move that we authorize the RFP to go out as quickly as possible.
Second. We have a second and a third. Mr. Aguilar.
Councilmember Plott?
Yes.
Councilmember Rush?
Aye.
Councilmember Tesari?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rigby?
Aye.
Mayor Lorimore?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Craig, how long are you gonna float it for? 30 days?
And it will have to be at least 30 days, probably 30 to 60 days.
Okay.
And are you coming up with new name options that Adam suggested earlier?
We didn't name the creek. So, just kind of a bigger picture time frame on this project. You know, the PSNE will probably take at least a year. So if we can start that in January or February and finish it up in Q1 of 2019 or 2020, I should say. The other thing that we're hearing is there might be an opportunity for that land to be tied up and change hands eventually. And so if we can get the project shelf ready, either we can construct it or a developer could construct it should a development come in on any of those parcels. And so, but we want to have the project ready to go so that we're not further delayed. We can't put the roadway in right now because it goes right through a dairy, and it would disrupt the operations of the dairy, as well as the single-family residence there. So, if the land would need to either change hands or do something like that for this project to be constructed, but we want to get the project shelf ready and ready to go should the project or the land change hands or the operation cease to exist anymore, and then we can get that project going. So our goal is not to go out there and do any kind of eminent domain or anything like that. We want to make crystal clear that that's not our goal at this time, but we want to have the project ready to go to make this important connection in the region. So
excellent. No, I thought you were thinking about something. You were looking at the screen.
Pictures in my head.
Awesome. Okay, we are moving on to item 10, City Manager Report, City Staff Report.
So the city manager's report, that'd be me. Let me see, just 1 second. Olivia wrote me notes before she left. She was not feeling well, so she, communications update. The annual overlay project was shared out through a number of outreach platforms. We've gotten a lot of feedback about. It was a contract for 90 days. We are still on schedule with that 90 days. However, a lot of loops were cut, and so the signal operations are affected, and we've realized patience is a virtue that we're all working on. And so we are trying to deliver that project in a timely manner and get striping and work on a couple of those issues out there. So we have been trying to communicate and share information on schedules. The entire project, including all the detection being implemented, should be done before Thanksgiving. So we have a couple major intersections that have been critical that have loop detection missing that we will have implemented by the end of the month, and then we will get the rest in place. Sunshine Growers is coming to Eastvale, so we're excited about $4 million in sales tax revenue coming to Eastvale from Ontario. So thank you very much for them choosing Eastvale. So that was approved at the Planning Commission. There's an RFP for a community feedback study. Will be sent out in early next month. We will be launch the study at the beginning of January, and we will plan to have it presented to council in February. And so this is the study or the community feedback study that you all approved in the fiscal year 18-19 budget to get community feedback and input. This will be a scientific, professionally done. It'll be an RFP that goes out for these professional services. Yes.
Back on Sunshine Growers, you say 4 million in sales tax revenue?
Not revenue, sales, taxable sales.
Taxable. Okay, I heard revenue first.
That's what the owner. Sorry, that's what the owner said. So
okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem. I just yeah. Sorry.
Sometimes city managers can dream. $4 million in city tax revenue is a good thing. So
that would be
sorry,
awesome.
I was dreaming for a second. So
no, but glad they're coming. They're awesome. Great company.
Minor typo. Glad you caught me. Then also just wanted to highlight our city clerk and his team will be developing the passport and notary services, and he'll share a little bit more of that in a little bit. And that will be launched here pretty soon, and he'll give you more specifics on that. Just that was a reminder for him. The JCSD is having their annual skate and BMX jam on November 3rd from 4:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then save the date for the annual Veterans Day ceremony, Sunday, November 11th at 8:30 a.m. at American Heroes Park. We will only have one council meeting in November and December. That will be November 14th and November 12th. And November 14th and December 12th. Thank you. And not sure if you want to share. She gave me editorial there. There's, as I'm reading her verbatim here. The slurry seal last year had some issues. We heard a lot of feedback from the community. We have arm wrestled with the contractor. The contractor will be coming in between November 8th and 14th. Outreach will be done a week prior on that. And then we also are going to be doing some work at Sumner and the one that's going to impact the intersection.
There's some deep patches going on in a number of streets. There's some residential streets that require.
What intersection is going to be impacted?
Schleichman and Archibald, the night of the September 30th. They will be paving that intersection from 9 o'clock at night to 5 in the morning. We expect them to only take about 3 hours. There will be delays for people depending on which direction you're going. We've got boards up right now to let people know about that date, but
we will be communicating that in advance, and we already have changeable message boards saying that intersection is going to be impacted at night. But it's a deep patch. We have to fix that roadway.
Yeah, it's an overlay. Correct.
And then I think that's about it. So, Stephen, if you want to share a little bit about the passport in detail.
Sure. As Brian mentioned, the clerk's office is excited to announce that as of Tuesday, November 13th, we will be offering passport services to the community. So if the community is interested in applying for a passport, whether it's a new application or renewing, we will be accepting those here at City Hall. And so we will be doing it on an appointment-only basis as a pilot program from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And should the program be successful, we hope it is here in the city, we hope to start doing it through our normal hours of operation. Along with the passport services, we are also actually going to be having notary services as well too. And so this is just an additional revenue option for the city, and so we'll be providing notary services to the community as well. So we'll be working closely with Olivia to start advertising that to the community. So if you are planning to make some summer travels next year, come see us for your passport.
Who's going to be providing the notaries?
We have 2 notaries here at City Hall, myself and another deputy city clerk.
Are you guys going to be competitive?
I'll let her handle it.
No, in terms of pricing.
It's $15 per signature, and that's what we're allowed to charge by the state requirements.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Any other updates?
I think that's it.
Okay, that's it. We are on to item number 11. Thank you for the updates. I appreciate that. Looking forward to that. That's a milestone related to the passports and the notaries. It's awesome. Moving on to item number 11, City Council Communications Committee Reports. We'll start, Mr. Tesseri.
Vector Control did spray this past Friday, and the next one will be 2 Fridays from now.
Excellent. Mr. Plott?
I have no comments.
Mr. Rush?
Thank you. Yeah, we had a WRCOG meeting on Monday. It was the final meeting of this experience process that we've been going through. It's been a little bit under the radar because I guess some Brown Act issues that they were anticipating. So it was a committee made up of 9 executive committee members, myself included, UCR, RCC, EMWD, Western, AQMD, a couple other folks. The long and short of it is the city of Riverside and this EMWD and the city of Paris were the 2 final selected locations by a vote of 8 to 1. Excuse me, 8 to 2, or no, 7 to 2. Yeah, if I can do math. We decided on choosing the city of Riverside in a JPA type model. So the experience is going to be some type of collaborative, young entrepreneur type facility. I make robots, or I have a new widget, and I can lease a office for $200 a month, and then once a week the CEO of the national widget company comes in and gets to look at my product. If he wants to buy it, cool. I get to hang out with him and learn the tricks of the trade and things of that nature. So kind of the model we're following is a facility in LA. It's on LA City property, ran mostly by LADWP. It's called Lacey, and it's been very successful in kind of new startups and technology and things of that nature. So that was that. We had a RCTC meeting that was relatively uneventful, although the fix, as it were, to the Green River on-ramp 91 is coming back on the 26th, the day after Thanksgiving, or the Monday after Thanksgiving, and we expect a very long hearing for that. So that fix is coming if you travel the 91, or the proposal at least, and if it's approved, should be completed in about 4 to 6 months.
Thank you, Mr. Rush. I've always been interested in meeting the CEO of Widgets, or the Widget Company, also Acme. Mr. Rigby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today we met as a WCE board. That's the Western Community Energy. That's the CCA that we've been talking about, that we approved the ordinance for tonight. Like I said when we talked about that ordinance, that wasn't for us to move. That wasn't necessarily a promise for us to be a part of it. That was just to continue the process. We are getting more true numbers on this, and we should have, in the next month or so, we should have the true numbers. One of the scenarios that they shared with us today was that if an average customer stays with SCE, their bill would be about $188. If they go with WCE, it'd be about $185. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but I think that kind of caused a little perk up from a lot of the members thinking, oh, we're doing all this for a $3 savings. So I think it'll be interesting how the numbers do come back. But there's a lot more to it than just the rate. There's the local control aspect of it. There's programs that can be offered through the savings. There's focus on renewables, all different things. So, but that'll come to council. Once again, to answer Councilmember Plott's question, we aren't committed until we actually purchase power, and we'll be forewarned before we purchase power, before our commitment is 100% in effect. This Friday, hope that everyone, council members will be there, and whatever staff is available, but it's the chamber installation dinner, which will be at Silver Lakes. Should be a good program. And then just a quick update, it's not a city council assignment, but it is a committee that I sit on. It's the Measure GG committee, or the Measure GG Oversight Committee for the school district. There's two main projects that we have here in the city that measure covers. One is the STEM Academy, the other is Rondo Elementary School. Both of those projects are going well. As you know, the STEM Academy has students already participating, but as you can tell, as you've driven by, that project is going smoothly. It's on track. Same thing with the elementary school, and I think it may be good. I don't know if we can maybe coordinate with the school district to maybe give us just a quick presentation for the community just on those two projects and kind of the status of them, and just share maybe at a council meeting of the status of those two projects. And that's it.
And that's it. Okay, excellent. Thank you for the updates, everyone. Very briefly, this past weekend was booked with events, but they were awesome. In particular, really liked some of the grand openings that were taking place. We had back-to-back gatherings, but Miguel Juniors had their soft grand opening. There will be an actual grand opening. We had the Les Schwab Tires grand opening. City staff coming out, participating on what would be ostensibly their day off. So thank you for doing that. And what else do we have that day? That same day in the evening, we had the YMCA gathering. I know some city staff participated in that. And that was their annual recognition, where we had residents from Eastvale recognized at this as well. So I'm gonna keep the report short. One other thing, really fun. Over the weekend on Sunday, we had the homemade Inland Empire. There was a dog costume contest. It was for a good cause. It was for any funds raised went towards the transitionally homeless, building a shelter for them. And they had a contest, a raffle contest. You could purchase to get into that. Some really cool dog houses. I don't know if you guys are able to come check it out over the weekend, but they had tiki themed ones down to ones that looked like actual houses. One was Snoopy on it. Anyway, I will end it there. We are at the end of the items on the agenda, with the exception of our closed session. So I do not know how long the closed session will go for. That being said, if you're willing to stick around, we're going to come out and report afterwards. If not, we understand. This is item 12.1. At this time, council will be recessing to closed session. Ms. Vega, please introduce the item.
Yes, we'll be going to closed session for a conference with real property negotiators with respect to the property at 13200 Citrus Street here in the city of Eastvale.
Thank you all for sticking it out to the end. You guys are great. Thank you.